By the way, let's move on now to a movie that's got a lot of people talking. The new 3D thriller. It's called Gravity. Sandra Bullock plays an astronaut stranded in space. And some are already calling this a game changer. Hey, Sandra, welcome back.
Thank you.
This is not my first movie. And, you know,
Really?
I went to the screening yesterday and I sat there thinking, how did they do this?
Yeah.
You are weightless through the entire movie, basically. Mm-hmm. You're floating. There are objects floating, not just past you. I can understand how the computer could do that.
Yeah.
But they're bumping into you and then spinning. How did they do this?
Many different ways. We had the light box. We had hanging from 12-wire rigs. We had a tank where you were submerged about 20 feet. A lot of things.
But this light box, 9 by 9 feet,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you spent huge amounts of time in there. Just talk about how it works.
Long story short, you were clamped in from the waist down. There were LED lights all around you. There was a hole for a camera that was on an arm that used to make the cars for Detroit that would come hurling at you. And you in slow motion did the upper half of your body so it could catch that, you know.
So was this ridiculously time-consuming to shoot?
Yes and no. I mean, it just ridiculously time-consuming in the best way, in that you had to adhere to all the things that they needed you to do, start in a certain place, end in a certain place, so that it would cut together.
One of the things, several things jumped out at me about the way this movie is made. First of all, you are in just every frame of this movie, basically. And not only are you in it, but oftentimes you are, for most of the movie, alone.
Yeah.
You're acting opposite nothing, and the camera is right there on your face. How tough was that?
What kind of reminds me of being at home? You know, that's
Nobody to talk
That's how
to.
I roll at home. I have a camera, just to act out things. You know, it was it was lonely, but every time I say that, I go, it was actually the perfect setup for feeling lonely, feeling lost, feeling frustrated, because it was such an unnatural experience that you had nothing that you were used to, and actually in the end, once you started using it instead of fighting it all the time, it just made it what it was. You didn't, you know.
You're emoting also with your breathing. Mm-hmm. Okay, can we talk about your breathing in this movie?
Yeah.
Give me a little sample of what we hear a lot of in this movie.
No, because I'd prefer not to pass out.
Come on.
It was a series of hyperventilation moments. It was just because you had to get to a certain level, and because we shot a lot of things out of sequence, I would start listening back to what we shot before, and then I would have to get the breath to that place, and just so it was authentic.
See, I closed my eyes a couple of times in the theater, and it was like I kept imagining we were in some kind of Lamaze class.
Yes.
And you were doing the panting and the breathing.
I did give birth twice.
Twice during the
Just
movie?
Twice,
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
And congratulations again.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to say this next thing that jumped out at me, and I want to say this, and I want to articulate this in a way that does not...
you took off the glasses. Oh, yeah, no, it's big.
By the way, the 3D glasses that I had were fantastic.
Aren't they amazing?
They work great for the movie. I don't want to sound lecherous here.
Well, that's a little hard for you. But go ahead, try it.
No,
just try it.
Because you've known me. You are in incredible shape in this movie. There are a couple of scenes where...
That's all CGI. It is.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. You must have worked out like crazy to do this.
We did. And when I say we, it was definitely a group effort. Two great Australian trainers that have this system down, and they were dancers, and they knew what I needed to do to get in shape so I wouldn't get hurt, so I could do all the wire work, so I could do everything that they needed me to do. And I wanted her to look a certain way. So it was from the inside out and the outside in, and it was just every day. But nice job to have.
Yeah, not bad. And just explain to me why this was so scary for you. I mean, the quote that's going around here is it was scary for you on every level to shoot this. Why?
Because I had no idea how to do it. No one had ever done it before.
After all the movies you've made?
No one in that room that was making this movie had any idea of what each day would be and if it would work. And I had no one to help me that was a human being, except for when George was there. Even when he was there.
George Clooney, because I don't know if we mentioned that yet.
Even then we were separated a lot, and we only had each other's voices. So it was just, it took you out of your comfort zone completely. And
I don't think you have to be a fan of outer space and space exploration to love this movie, but I happen to be as a kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember being at summer camp and watching Man Land on the Moon, which was 1969. You were...
I was 4.
I was 12. Okay. But I also, when the Apollo missions would go, my dad had a contact at NASA, and he would get me the medals for all of the Apollo missions.
You had a good dad.
And I say
Are these gold?
These are gold. Yeah, but don't walk away with them. Yeah. But so, I mean, this was right up my alley.
These
I
are
loved
amazing.
every aspect of this.
I mean, it does. It plays into those fantasies that I think we've all had about space and not the future, but futuristic things that are completely unfamiliar. And the director puts such an emotional story to it. So it's not just sci-fi. It is a sci-fi that just has a really strong emotional story to it.
Speaking of emotional stories, I watched you the other day. By the way, congratulations. You were immortalized in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Yeah, which is cool. I mean,
very cool.
And as many times as you've seen other actors and actresses do that, was it a thrill?
It was a thrill because my son was there. I always wave these things off and I go, oh, it's no big deal. It's just, and you try not to make a lot out of it but having him there he's made everything sweet. So.
But it actually surprised me because you've been very private. You don't put him in situations where there are going to be a lot of cameras.
Yeah.
And there was a situation where there were going to be 1,000 cameras.
Yeah, it was a really conscious decision, and we had one made for him at home. So when he came home, he did his own little hand and footprint and wrote his name, and so we're going to put it at the front of the house. And I figured of all things that I do, this is something that later on when he hates me and I'm an embarrassment, I'll say, come here, let me show you what we did when you were younger and how much you liked me at that time. Because I did give him gummy bears, and that's why he was okay with being there.
It seemed to me a few years ago you went into a bit of a vault after a tough time in your life. Are you coming out of that a little bit? Is that evidence of that?
Oh, totally. Life is sweet.
A little freer to talk about things?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he looks adorable, by the way.
He is. He's delicious.
And this movie grabbed me by the throat. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Sandra, it's good to see you as always.